Hello, I'm Garrett. This is Misfit. Hello, I'm Garrett. This is Misfit. Why can't I say Hello, I'm Garrett, and this is Misfit Peacock Gaming. Please like and subscribe. Help us out with the algorithm and comment. I would like to hear what your favorite game is that you played this year that was not released in 2025. So, released 2024 or earlier. That you played this year. Let me know what you thought of it. Let me know what your favorite game was there. Mine is probably Pokemon White. That was a wonderful experience. But I've also been really into the 2D Metroids. I played Metroid Dread this year and had a blast with it. I also played RE4 Remake, which was also excellent and came out like 3 years ago. I think I'm going to go with Pokemon White though. So what am I doing here? This is very different than the videos I've made so far. I wanted to try this format. Usually when I'm making videos, I've written out a full script and I'm reading that word for word almost the whole way through. And I wanted to try something a little less formal. I just have a list of bullet points here in front of me that I'm going to run through as I discuss this last year and getting into collecting older games, while you get to watch me play those games on my DS. So yeah, I'm going to talk about what games did I collect this year, and what did I learn about collecting old games, retro games, whatever you want to call it, games from older console generations. So let's start with that. What did I learn? Number one, purchase with purpose. I know that sounds like such a lame tagline, but I do think that's the important one. If you want to get into buying older games, you want to get into buying retro games, purchase with purpose. Know what games you like, what interests you, what keeps you entertained and engaged. Look at what console has those games in it, or even just what was special about game design during a specific era that really hooks you. And knowing that going in is going to save you a lot of time, probably save you some money. I started out really looking into getting into the Game Boy Advance and playing Game Boy Advance games, looking at that library. Then I just happened to pick up a Lite instead of a Game Boy Advance because that's what I could find for a decent price. And then realized how much I love the DS for how unique the game design was of that era, because of how unique game design was for that specific console. So knowing what your own tastes are really what's important as you start collecting. The other piece of advice I have is buy from your local store for a couple of reasons. They're going to be a little cheaper compared to, say, like Amazon. Amazon's prices are ridiculous. Don't buy from them. Or even some of the other game stores that have a larger online presence, that you see them making TikTok shorts and all that stuff. If they have a website that's reaching more people, they're going to be able to charge higher prices. So shopping from your local game store, whatever store is local for you, if you have one, is going to be a little more cost effective. So that's my advice for game collecting. I really think that's all there is to it. Other than that, collect whatever you feel passionate about, whatever interests you. So now let's jump into kind of where I started, what I did this year for game collecting, because it was about a year ago that I started getting into collecting these older games, wanting to learn more about these older games, what makes them interesting, which of course started with me just cleaning out my closet and finding a handful of Game Boy Color, and Game Boy Advance games. For whatever reasons that still are a mystery to even me, held on to a copy of Pokemon Crystal. I'm so glad that I did, even though I don't understand why, because I have not had a way to play it in probably over a decade at this point. I found Pokemon Crystal, Super Mario 6 Golden Coins, Metroid Fusion, and Kirby and Dreamland, along with a couple others. But those were the ones that like I started playing and started going, okay, like these are so much fun still, and they're like still worth playing, still worth having today. Especially Metroid Fusion. Like I said, I really got into playing the 2D Metroids I want to find a way to play Super Metroid. I have a few options, but haven't been able to get into it just yet. But yeah, finding those and playing through all of those really got me wanting to have my own Game Boy Advance again. So I started looking for a Game Boy Advance, but for a variety of reasons, wound up just picking up a DS Lite instead. Mostly because, the DS Lite's still going to play Game Boy Advance games. It was going to give me access to a lot wider variety of games. And it's what I could find for a decent price. Game Boy Advances can get a little pricey. And then if you're getting one of the older Game Boy Advances, you don't have the backlight. If you're getting the SP, it's expensive, but it does come with the backlight. The DS Lite was going to be best of both worlds. Less expensive than the SP, coming with all the good, comfortable features of having that backlight, a wider console, more comfortable to hold. And I'm very glad that I wound up getting a DS Lite instead, because it opened me back up to the DS library. And I really fell in love with that generation of games, because the DS required such specific design, and then they had this touchscreen to do something interesting with. And the developers that used that touchscreen to their advantage made some amazing games that are so unique to the DS that, because the touchscreen is out of style now, games just aren't made that way anymore. But before I start getting too deep into collecting DS games, I'll talk about where I started, because I didn't go straight to DS games. I started looking at Game Boy Advance games first, because that's really what got me looking back at these games. So I immediately, from when I was a kid, had Wario Land 4, and I wanted to play Wario Land 4, picked up a copy of that. I really enjoy this just wacky 2D platformer. The music is so interesting and unique. The visuals are so gross in a fun way. Not the most fun platformer ever, but it's so fast paced, and the levels are so bite sized that it really works for it, that you have this just fun little romp through the level. You play some mini games. It's a good time, and you get to see Wario turn into a zombie. I also, one of the first things I picked up, because I'd been wanting to try Earthbound, as well as Mother 3. So I picked up some reproduction cartridges, since Mother 3 was never released in the States. Earthbound's kind of hard to find, and is on the SNES, which I don't have. So I picked up some reproduction copies with the translations on it to give it a shot. I've been playing through Earthbound. It's in the backlog right now, on the back burner, but I'll probably pick it back up this year, because I do think it's a fascinating game. I don't know if I love the combat, but definitely here for the story. So I picked up those, and then started going I have this empty slot. I should put something here. I should have a game here, if only to protect the DS, is what I told myself. I was mostly making excuses so that I could pick up Mario Kart, which is kind of what set me down the path of wanting to know more about the DS library. So I picked up Mario Kart. It's Mario Kart DS. It is definitely my personal favorite Mario Kart game. I think this is the one that captures the chaotic fun of a kart race, without being too off the wall, too chaotic, where you just don't know what's happening because there's so many items and so many things going on in front of you. Not to say the games that came after this weren't good. I think I just prefer this one. But playing that one really got me to start going, what else has the DS got? What else did they have going on here? I know I played the Pokemon games. I played a few other random games. But when I had a DS as a kid, I don't think I did a whole lot with it, other than the most well-known things like Mario Kart and Nintendogs and Pokemon. So I started kind of going down this path of collecting DS games and looking at what I missed out on at the time. I picked up Brain Age because they're really cheap and easy to find, and I was curious about them. It's all right. It's a Sudoku and puzzle game. It was so ubiquitous with the DS that I wanted to pick it up and give it a shot. I picked up a game called Mr. Driller Drill Spirits, which is a really early DS game. That's a really interesting, kind of Tetris-y, kind of not, where you're digging down. I don't have it anymore. I traded it for something else. But you're digging down and kind of trying to match tiles and beat time, focused on the fact that there were the dual screens rather than the touch screen. Or it was an interesting game. It didn't keep me super engaged and wanting to come back. But if you see it, it doesn't typically show up for too expensive. It's usually like $10. I'd say it's worth picking up and giving a shot. I then traded some old Switch stuff because I don't have a Switch with a console anymore. I just have a Switch Lite now. But I had some old controllers, so I did some trading and picked up The World Ends With You, which is another game that just looked fascinating. And it really was. It's such a cool game. It's a RPG that like can really, I know they did a port of it to the Switch, but I think as its original design, it really can only exist on the DS because it's relying so heavily on the two screens and the touch screen at the same time. And it is fun. I love the art design, that like early 2000s punk goth kind of look. I'm sure there's a cooler name for it. And fun gameplay that I was just so bad at, keeping the rhythm and passing the light puck between the two screens. So I really appreciate that game, but I was so bad at it that I decided to trade it and picked up Spirit Tracks, Legend of Zelda Spirit Tracks, which, yet again, another really cool example of, we have this touch screen, we have these two screens, how are we going to use it? And I think a big part of why I like it is because I'm not a huge fan of Zelda combat. I love a lot of the things about Zelda games. Combat is not one of them, and this kind of eliminates combat. Like, you still fight, but you're just tapping the screen, and Link kind of does it for you. And there's a lot of other cool stuff going on with that game. You get to drive your train around, see Hyrule. The music is wonderful. I've been enjoying that game. I'm not done with it quite yet, but I'm glad I picked that up. And then fairly recently, I did pick up Guitar Hero World Tour, just because I think it's so interesting. It's this weird little doohickey that goes into the DS, so you can strum your guitar. It's so uncomfortable, but they don't really make peripherals like this for game consoles anymore. It's a sign of how popular Guitar Hero was, that like everyone knew what Guitar Hero was. My dad was playing Guitar Hero with us, and that it just reached such a popularity that even they were like, oh, maybe we can put it on the DS with this wrist strap thing. And it even got its own DS version. There's that cool Guitar Hero World Tour DS edition. So I picked that up. Just because I think it's cool. So those are the non-Pokemon games. I did want to take a moment to talk specifically about the Pokemon games, because when I was like, oh, I want to get into these old games, one of my childhood games, as with so many people, the big one was Pokemon. Of like, as much as I love Crystal, Pokemon Ruby is the first one that I consider my own Pokemon, because I didn't need help with it. My brother helped me so much with getting through Crystal. He basically played it for me back when I was a kid. But with Ruby, like, that was the one I bought, or like I asked for specifically. I don't remember which one, if it was a gift or if I saved up and bought it. But it was the first one that like I was conscious of, I want this thing. And playing through it from start to finish, not being able to beat the Elite Four, borrowing my friend's Rayquaza in order to beat the Elite Four. Of course, so when I started collecting these old games, I was immediately like, I want some Pokemon games. And then looked up Pokemon games and saw how that they were more expensive than the consoles that they exist on. And maybe they're not hard to find, but man, they are too expensive. So I was kind of deterred at first from getting any of the Pokemon games, which is fine. Again, like the DS and Game Boy Advance have so many wonderful games. People immediately associate with the Pokemon games because it's Pokemon, but there's so many other good things. But I kept coming back to like I would love a copy of Pearl, and eventually I just got lucky. That is one of the reasons why I think it is worth keeping an eye, going to check out your local game store. If you're gonna find these games for less than eBay, it's gonna be at your local game store. And I just happened to find Pearl for 40. I talk about this in my other video. Check it out if you want to hear me talk about Pokemon Pearl. But I do think a big part of why that one was cheaper is just because the remake is so recent. Even if the remake doesn't have the best reputation, like it is recent enough that I think it probably affected the price a little bit. But got lucky, picked up Pearl, and then played through Pearl and was like, I would love to complete the Pokedex for this generation, but I would need a copy of Diamond. That's another, if I'm lucky again, $40. If I'm not lucky, $70 or $80. And then I realized you can pick up Japanese versions for so much cheaper. Pearl and Diamond in particular are dirt cheap compared to their American versions for whatever reason. And so I picked up Diamond, the Japanese version of Diamond. And because I had just played through Brilliant Diamond as well as the original Pearl, it didn't matter that I didn't know what anyone was saying. I originally, when I got into this, I was like, I'm gonna collect all of the Pokemon games. That's gonna be my collection thing. And then after seeing the prices and seeing other games I could get for so much cheaper that were just as amazing, backed off of that and decided that I would be okay with just collecting the Diamond, Pearl, Platinum generation of games. I already had Diamond, I already had Pearl, so I just needed Platinum. Another reason why I love this hobby is that I can trade games to get other games. I can take stock of what I've picked up and say, I don't see myself playing this. This isn't the experience I thought it was going to be. Or I've experienced this game. It was great, but I don't see myself coming back to it. And then trade that in for a new experience and get that little bit of insurance that I don't think other hobbies really give you. Because what I did is I said, I've got a handful of DS games that I'm not really playing. And I would love to turn those into a game that I would like to hold on to for a while or permanently collect. So I traded in those games for Platinum so that I could get my hands on Platinum. So I had that bit of insurance that comes with access to local game stores that are accepting those trades, that need those trades to continue their business. In order to get to complete a collection, to complete that trio of Diamond, Pearl, and Platinum. I'm still making my way through Platinum. It's really cool, the changes they've made. It's tough. There are some fights in this game that I was not at all prepared for. How hardcore some of these trainers were going to be. But I'm enjoying my time with it so far. I think I'm done with buying Pokemon games on the DS. There's still a small part of me that keeps looking over at Soul Silver, Heart Gold. It's because those are the ones people really rave about being amazing remakes. And having just played Crystal, that game is already amazing. Like, that is already peak Pokemon. So hearing people talk so highly of the remakes, really, I keep looking over at it. But we'll see. Maybe I'll do some trading for it. We'll see. For now, though, I've got a long list of other games I want to get to. I think we're gonna leave those alone for now. And that's kind of it. That's everything I really collected that I held on to this year. I have a list of specific games that I'm interested in for the DS. I would love to pick up Phantom Hourglass now that I've tried Spirit Tracks. The exploration in that one looks really, really fun and interesting. I would like to try and play Kingdom Hearts 352 /2days. I don't know how you actually say that title, and I played it back in the day. I'd like to play that again, and get something on the DS that's a little more actiony, a little more fast-paced than what I have available to me right now. I recently learned about a game called Lego Battles on the DS that is an RTS on the DS, and I don't know if it's going to be good, but I am so fascinated by that concept, by it being a Lego RTS and it's on the DS, is wild to me. And I need to see for myself what that game is like. If you've played it, let me know in the comments down below if it's worth picking up. I need to grab Tetris DS. I hear great things about Tetris on the DS, and like, again, Tetris is such a like core of video games. Like it holds the rest of video games up on its shoulders to an extent. At least Nintendo owes Tetris a lot. So I'd love to have a copy of it on DS. And then I've recently heard about Trauma Center Under the Knife, which just, again, it looks like a different experience compared to what else I have available on the DS. And now that's kind of what I'm looking for. Like I have my centerpiece, my 3 Pokemon games, and I would love to fill out the rest of that collection, my slots in my case, with variety, with unique experiences. But I don't know if I'm going to buy any of those this year, because I have a bit of a backlog, and I might focus this year on finishing those games. Like I said, I've got Earthbound that I need to finish. I want to see where that story goes. I hear Mother 3 is even better than Earthbound, so I want to see where that series goes. Still working my way through Platinum, and seeing kind of what changes they made. I'm still working on Spirit Tracks. And then I've got a handful of Switch games that I would like to finish as well. So this might be a year where I after 1 year of collecting games, I might take a break and just get caught up on the backlog. That is all from me. Thank you for sticking around if you stuck around this long. And thank you to everyone who's subscribed so far. Like it kind of blows my mind that the number of subscribers, while tiny right now, is still includes people that I've never met before. And so if I've never met you before, hello. Thank you for watching. I appreciate you being here. If I have met you before, hello. I'm sure we'll talk soon. Next video is actually going to be about the Resident Evil remakes. I've been playing Resident Evil 4 remake. We've got Resident Evil 9 coming up. So I want to talk about those games a little bit. I have what I think is going to be a fun idea for how to shoot that video. But that'll be coming out in February. And then after that, it will be back to Pokemon to talk about Pokemon Crystal. Thank you again for watching. Like, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff. Check us out. Check out Misfit Peacock Radio Theater. We are releasing The Fleet. Season 1 of The Fleet is done and out right now. And we released a little Christmas special called North Pole Noir that you can check out as well. Links to that down below. Thanks again for watching, and have a Happy New Year.